I recently picked up a trilogy of shmups called The Tale of Ultinex. These 3 games were developed by Siter Skain, which is a indie shmup development house. And this series began, I believe, in the early 90s or mid-90s on the FM Towns Marty, eventually making its way to Windows in 1999 with this first installment called Kamui. Now, this is a trilogy in a loose sense. Each one has different play mechanics, but all 3 are part of the Tale of Ultinex trilogy, for whatever reason. Okay, well, let's fire this up and see what it's all about. In the year 20XX, a supercomputer went nuts, and you must stop it, or something like that. You know, I'm not actually quite sure what the plot is here, and I have no excuse because I have this game on Steam. I just didn't bother to read it. But I swear that's what the plot is. I mean, what else do supercomputers do? I mean, they get bored being all smarter than humanity and everything, and, you know, they tend to lash out. So what is Kamui all about? Well, it's not a manic shooter, that is, it's not bullet hell. It's not like a Toplin game, you know, games like Raiden or Battle Squadron. Those are Toplin-likes or Raiden-likes. It's not like that. No, Kamui takes the bulk of its inspiration from RayForce by Taito, which is one of my favorite shoot-'em-up games. It also takes quite a bit from Soukyugurentai by Rising, which I had previously covered on the show. And when I say takes inspiration from, it takes a little bit more than that, but I forgive it because it's well done and offers enough different from those games to justify itself. And hell, who doesn't want more RayForce? If you're not familiar with that game, let me explain how it works. In both these games, you can lock onto enemies below you with a lock-on laser. In RayForce, you actually have to position a crosshair over the enemy you want to lock onto, though in Kamui you just hit the second button and it locks onto everything in your view. That makes Kamui more about timing and twitch response and less about positioning and maneuvering. And when you hold down both buttons, your ship fires a powerful laser that can absorb bullets. Much like the bomb in a standard shoot-'em-up, this laser essentially lets you choose which shot patterns you want to dodge and which you don't. But because it and the lock-on laser share the same gauge in the bottom left of the screen, you have to be careful with timing to ensure that you don't run out at a crucial moment. You can actually recharge the gauge faster if you don't shoot and instead hold down the lock-on button. And this is where the scoring comes in. You actually get a higher multiplier depending on the level of the gauge. For example, if you release with the gauge maxed out, you actually get a 16 times multiplier for every target destroyed with the lock-on laser. The graphics in Kamui have that hard-edged look, like so many games of the 32-bit generation. This makes sense since Kamui came out in 1999. The environments are overflowing with cool effects, which almost makes you forget that they're a bit less intricate than the games that it's emulating. And the sprite work, of course, is bright, colorful, and attractive. I really like the way this game looks. The enemy patterns are also memorable and well designed, and they'll shoot every manner of homing lasers, guided missiles, and, of course, a huge variety of shot patterns at you. And Kamui keeps the momentum going through its roughly 5 stages. There's never a dull moment, and the game just builds and builds in a satisfying way, all the way up to the final boss, which I'm not going to spoil for you here. The bosses in Kamui are also quite memorable, with all sorts of patterns which are a lot of fun to dodge. Though I have to warn, a bit of memorization is required in these parts. But damn if it doesn't pay off well. Now, I believe there's a couple different releases of Kamui. The one I have both on Steam and on CD is the one that says Windows Vista and Windows 7 on the cover. But I believe there's an older release which may run better if you have an old junky computer lying around like I do. And worth mentioning, since the game is a Windows game, yes, it supports Vsync very well, it runs smooth, and it actually supports Tate mode, which is really unusual for a Windows native game. That's when you turn your monitor onto its side, so that a game like this is no longer letterboxed. So if you were not able to tell, I really recommend Kamui. I think it's a terrific game. Especially if you're like me and enjoyed RayForce and Souky and wish there were more games in that style. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more reviews.